Yes, everybody, welcome back. My name is Stephen Howson. This is, well, it's my fucking channel, isn't it? And that's why you're watching it. Hopefully you're all in bed, recovering or staying safe and staying isolated and all that sort of stuff. Well, let's talk about something that's even worse than coronavirus, VAR. Right, this is 5 things that we learned watching VAR piss us off this season. Right then, you've all saw it. You saw it at the World Cup and it seemed alright-ish, I guess, at the World Cup. Didn't seem to be as much of a nose as it has been in the Premier League during the World Cup, but then it came into the Premier League and it's been a bit of a pain in the ass, hasn't it? So the VAR, Video Assistant Referee, Premier League clubs voted unanimously in November 2018 to introduce the system for all 380 Premier League fixtures for the 1920 season, but it will only be used for clear and obvious errors or serious missed incidents in 4 match-changing situations. That was goals, that was penalty decisions, that was direct red card incidents, and also mistaken identity. The final decision will always be taken by the on-field referee, is what they say. However, we're not really seeing that, are we? There's been controversy, there's been debate after debate, there's been arguments about interpretations of rules, there's been vagueness about whether, where's the ball played from, is someone's pubes being offline, can you score with an armpit? I don't know if you can score with an armpit, armpit's offside, can't be played. It's been an absolute nightmare. It slows the game down too much. I'm sure look, we're going to get into it. Number 1, VAR slows the game down far too much. And not only does it slow the game down, it kills that explosion of emotion, which is what football is all about. We live for that explosion of a goal. That's literally what football is. It's the series of goals that we score and how we celebrate those goals. Now when it's VAR, you've seen incidents where people have had a legitimately, perfectly a good goal and they've not quite celebrated it because there's been a couple of VAR incidents in the build-up to it and they've just gone, this one's going to get caught. You give it sound, or something got ruled out and then got overruled and you're like, you kill those moments about sport and you actually kill the sport. In the 68 live trial games that they had in the FA Cup and the EFL Cup across the previous 2 seasons, the governing body found out that it took an average of 29 seconds to review an incident, with about 8 incidents taking place in every single game. That check was complete for 95% of all of those incidents, but before the time the match was restarted. So we didn't really expect it to impact too much on the experience at the stadium at that point. That was in May 2019. Now we've had over half a season with VAR in full effect. It's quite obvious that it's definitely taken away the fans' experience in the stadium. A lot of people inside the stadium aren't aware. I mean, I don't know what it's like around the country, but at Old Trafford you've got this really weird robot lady that's like, VAR check in progress. And you're like, all right, okay. But there's no screen there for us. We don't have any idea what they're even checking for. It's so ambiguous. It's so just stupid the way it's communicated to us in the stadium, what's going on. And then you have to get a tweet out or text a friend and be like, what was that for? Was it right? It's just nonsense. A lot of the decisions that have happened in the Premier League so far this season have been taking more than that average of 29 seconds, which we saw previously in the trials. They've been taking in excess of 90 seconds. Now, you add that up with 8 different instances, you're talking over 10 minutes of gameplay stopped. Now, you only play 60 minutes of a 90-minute anyway in the average game of football. That you don't play 45 minutes. It's not like basketball or something where the clock gets stopped as soon as it goes out, or rugby league when it goes out of play and it stops. The clock keeps running. Goal kicks, throw-ins, all that sort of stuff. There's actually only 60 minutes of gameplay. So you take away another 10 minutes of that gameplay for this bullshit, and less than half of the game, or around about half of the game, is literally not playing football. Number 2, inconsistent decisions. Now, nothing's ever going to be perfect, and obviously that's what makes the game itself enjoyable to watch. Is goals are scored and people concede because of human error. Nothing's ever perfect, like I said, but VAR does get those multiple angles, those multiple replays, slow motion, everything else that you don't really get the benefit of when you're an official that's watching the game in real time. It was literally brought in to make the game better and help out the referees, and it seems to have done the opposite. It seems to have created more controversy about these decisions. There's been multiple times where decisions have been questionable, and there's been even some where they've had to come out and say, yeah, we got that wrong. How are you getting things wrong when you've got the calmness of the VAR centre? You're sitting in a room without a crowd jeering you. You've got all of the replay in the world. You've taken a minute and a half for these decisions. How are you getting these decisions wrong? It makes absolutely zero sense. You was literally brought in to correct those decisions, you shouldn't be adding to those incorrect decisions. Couple of examples where people have just seen pure wrong decisions. Lo Celso and Azpilicueta. This was a pretty bad one. Lo Celso stood on Azpilicueta's shin after being tackled, and he got no punishment by the referee, Michael Oliver. So the incident was reviewed, and then it was deemed worthy of not being a red card. Now, we've all seen red cards this season where you go, that's a bit fucking harsh, isn't it? That one, nothing, play on. Again, this encountered a massively lengthy VAR check, and it was similar to the tackle which saw Aubameyang sent off for the tackle on Max Meyer at Crystal Palace. After the London derby, the PGMOL, the professional game match officials, the body that represents the match officials, also then admitted that Lo Celso probably should have been sent off for that tackle. We got it wrong. The view of the PGMOL is that it should have been a red card as it ticked the boxes, intensity and point of contact. But it's a human being making the subjective decision, and he didn't think it was a red card. All right, mate. Another example is that Brighton shouldn't have been awarded a penalty against Everton when Michael Keane stepped on Aaron Connolly's foot in the game at the Amex. The Seagulls went on to score the spot kick and win the game 3-2. The Premier League came out and acknowledged that VAR decision was awarded the penalty was incorrect. How are they getting these mistakes wrong? How are there multiple people doing this? Now, I had Keith Hackett on the podcast just before the World Cup, I think it was. And he came and he said, yeah, the way it's meant to work is it's just someone in the ear of the referee. Go and have a look at that. I think you might have got that wrong, mate. Go check this out. In the same way as that a linesman can flag for offside and the referee can go, play on. I thought it was onside. That's what the fourth official was supposed to be there for. That's what the video referee was meant to be there for. A little word in the ear, I think you got that one wrong. Or, as you've given a goal, perfect, mate, not a problem with that. And then you know yourself that you're getting the decisions right and your confidence as a referee is going to continue. If you've got something wrong, you've missed something, go check the screen. Why aren't we checking the screen in the Premier League? Why are we just relying on what the other guy says? If it's down to what the official on the pitch decrees, then why isn't that guy going and checking out for himself? There's been some really good examples where we've seen mic'd up referees in Australia, and you can hear them talking to the players and you can hear them talking to the video referee about what it is and what they're going to do in terms of a decision, and it's absolutely fantastic. That level of transparency would make such a massive difference to people's opinion of VAR if they could hear the conversation back and forward with the video referee and the on-field official. So many times that things have gone off. Let's look at the Fred incident at Old Trafford. If the video referee had gone and said, do you know what? Let me have a look at that before you make the decision. Right, there's definitely contact. It could be a penalty. Instead, Mike Dean just decides, he dived, and I'm going to give him a yellow card. Now, the implications of that wrong decision could have been massive for Manchester United. This is a high-intensity game. Fred gets a yellow card the next incident, another yellow card in the next incident, and he's off. Manchester United go on and lose that game because of one incorrect decision that Mike Dean didn't have the fucking bollocks to go and have a look at the screen at the side because his ego's too fucking fragile to think that he made a wrong fucking decision. Number 3, that incident aside, it's treated United pretty well, but fairly. Manchester United have had 10 VAR incidents in the Premier League this season, which puts them at the top of the league for clubs that have benefited from VAR decisions. Now, the issue with VAR is not that it's generally, apart from the 2 that we mentioned, getting decisions wrong. By and large, the decision that it's been getting has been absolutely spot on. However, it's the issue of it not going to VAR that I have a massive issue with. In terms of what United have had, we've had 10 overturns, we've had decisions leading to a goal 4 has been 1, 0 disallowed goals 4, which means that we was scoring goals, that was perfectly fine. Leading to a goals against, we've had 1 disallowed. Disallowed goals against, we've had 6, which is awesome. Net goal score for us is +6, subjective decisions 4-6, subjective decisions against none. So obviously our net subjective score there is +6. Couple of incidents that people have, let's be honest, opposition fans have really seen their arse with United. We had the Chelsea game back in February. We saw Kurt Zuma's goal disallowed for a foul on Brandon Williams by Azpilicueta in the 55th minute. It was a foul. And then we had the game with Everton back in March where the goal for Everton was disallowed for offside against Gylfi Sigurdsson as he was sitting in front of the goalkeeper. Well, he was offside. And then you got all of these sorts of things about, was he in his vision? He can see over him, all that sort of stuff. He was on the floor, he's in the way. Fucking hell, if we're getting offside for our fucking boners being ahead of the defender, he's offside in it, let's be honest. Number 4, it's created an unbelievable amount of debate around handball and offsides. Obviously, it's the laws of the game, but particularly handball and offside have been the ones that people have had much of an issue about, and their interpretation of those rules is seemingly what's got people's knickers in a twist, leading to people to call for changes to be made to those rules, or at least changes to be made to the interpretation of those rules. Fans are complaining that it's supposed to be clear and obvious, that VAR are looking into to speed up the decisions and make the game as fast as possible. The problem with the clear and obvious is people go, you can't be clear and obvious error in terms of offside. You are either offside or you are not offside. The chairman of IFAB, Lucas Broad, has come out and mentioned that the interpretation of clear and obvious is being used entirely wrong. It's not meant to be like offside. He literally even said, if you're having to zoom in and go pixel by pixel, that's not clear and obvious. That's not the interpretation. It's the clear and obvious error by the referee rather than they are clear and obviously offside. That's what he suggested the rules, and his organisation creates the rules that are supposed to be followed by everybody else, although there are different interpretations around the world of this. He's suggesting that if you have to get down and look at the pixel, that's too accurate, that's too much that's going on, and you have to leave it with the on-field decision, whichever that was. And I agree with him entirely. If you're having to get in and zoom in and go, look there's a pixel of Raheem Sterling's hip, he's offside, then he's not offside, is he? I'd personally like it to go to the daylight thing. I think that's obvious. You can clearly see that someone has gained an advantage. When they're talking about the clear and obvious errors, go back to the time Didier Drogba was offside against United by about 3 feet. It wasn't given. That goal happens. Chelsea go on and win the league. That's an obvious error. Someone can look at that on a still in 1 second and go, he's offside. That's what they're talking about. That was a clear and obvious error. It isn't a clear and obvious refereeing error if you look at it and you go, well, they're level. If you have to start zooming in on it and getting a pixel out and going, well, I think that's a purple pixel, I think he's offside. That's too much detail. That's not the clear and obvious that they're talking about. People are saying some rules are binary. You're either offside or not. It's either a goal or it's not. There can't be clear and obvious in terms of that. Well, that's what he's saying. It's a clear and obvious error. The goal line stuff, we have the little thing on the watch which tells them that it crossed the line. Sound, no one's got an issue with that. That's how technology is meant to work when it comes to officiating games. Someone goes, that went in or that didn't go in. It's not open to interpretation. Not one person's ever had an issue with it because it works perfectly, seamlessly, and doesn't interfere with the games. That's where people have a problem with it. In terms of the handball, we've seen numerous cases where handball has been given, especially in and around the shoulder area, and it seems to be whichever colour shirt, especially those that have got the different colour shirt on the arm and on the chest. Where's your shoulder? Where does all this lot make? Where's the difference in all this lot? What's technically a shoulder and what's an arm? To me, it should be like the t-shirt line, but is that an interpretation? Sometimes I've seen it given, sometimes I've seen it not given. It's mental. Number 5, there's still potential for this to work. With all the stick that VAR has been getting, that I've given it, that I'm sure you lot have all mentioned at home about it, there still is the potential that VAR can become a very useful tool for officials going forward in the game. Currently, you do see it getting most of the decisions that it makes correct. Whether you like that or not, it generally is the case. There's probably only been a couple of incidents where they've come out afterwards and said, yeah, we got that wrong. By and large, the decisions that VAR has been making have been correct decisions. It's just how long it takes for them to make it. There's a lot of frustration surrounded by the referee just standing there like that, yeah. You can see him literally saying to the players, yeah, I'm just waiting for VAR. Well, I thought you had the on-field decision. If you're happy with it, let's crack on with it. Let's play the game. I think there's a couple of tweaks that need to be made to the rules, a couple of tweaks that need to be made to how officials interpret those rules, and I think it could be a very key thing that helps us in our game. We saw the World Cup stuff brought back a long time after what had happened, and the referee would go and watch it on the screen. We saw what happened in Paris with Marcus Rashford's penalty. We saw the referee go and have a look at it himself on the screen. Why aren't the Premier League officials going looking at stuff on the screen? That, to me, it just makes no sense whatsoever. Then he could be in his own head going, was that the right decision? Because he's not seen it himself apart from what he saw in real time, which may or may not have been correct. VAR works brilliantly in the Bundesliga. I thought it was a fine implementation during the World Cup. So there are examples around the world of how VAR is working and how I think a lot of us expected it to work once it was introduced into the Premier League. So is this a case maybe of just poor officials in this country? Is it a case of the infrastructure and knowledge around the game just isn't quite ready for it in the Premier League? Or is it a case of, like, English referees clearly aren't up to the standard? When was the last time you saw a top-level English referee out on the international game? Who thinks any of our officials could actually be given the Champions League final or the World Cup final? The last one that I can think of off the top of my head was Howard Webb, who gave out 14 yellow cards and a red card, which I think is a record in a 2010 World Cup final. Completely lost control of it, didn't have a clue what was going on, and his performance was abysmal. So I'm going to stick up a poll in the corner. I think it's that corner. Go and check it out. Do you think VAR can be a success in the Premier League? Yes or no? Let me know in there. Thank you guys for your continued support of the channel. Well, there's not a lot to talk about. We will be making as much of content as we can. It feels like we're probably going to have to go into lockdown fairly soon, so we're probably going to be recording videos at home. If you want to keep supporting the channel, I do have a Patreon. The link is in the description below. There's extra content that you guys get on there, and we're probably going to be, once we get quarantined, going to be doing even more content on Patreon as well, so check that out. Link is in the description. Or if you'd like to get some merch, there's some awesome Stretford Paddock stuff. We've got mugs, we've got hats, we've got training kit, we've got match shirts, all that sort of stuff. Link for that is in the description as well. Thank you guys for everything that's gone on with this channel so far. Let's hope we can keep going through this little bit of a crisis that is on the cards at the moment. See you in the next one.